and welcome to the Cancer Journey podcast. I'm Alicia.
And I'm Sherry Ann.
Let's get grounded. I'm going to start Pesh today.
Good.
So, physically, a 4.25, emotionally, a 4.25, spiritually, a 4, and hope is a 4.5, and my word is even.
Okay. Let me ground and check in. Physically, 4.2. Emotionally, 4. Spirit, 4.4. Hope, 4.3. And my word is anticipating.
Okay. So today's topic, one of our cancer and topics, it's cancer and death and dying, which is a topic that is on the surface very, very hard, in practice very hard, but it's a reality that we experience. And for us here at the Cancer Journey right now, it's something that's very top of mind. And throughout a cancer journey, anyone's cancer journey, as a patient, survivor, thriver, or caregiver, it becomes the topic we kind of want to avoid, but we know whatever the route is, it's inevitable.
Right. I think actually in life people want to avoid the topic. I'm glad that there's more opportunities to talk about it in death cafes and um, those type of things where there's a gathering and they're not buying into this kind of doom and gloom around death and dying, but more of it as a process that we all go through. We see it all the time. Nobody escapes out of here alive. It's just, we already know where the destination is. And what that means is there's an end to this particular life on this planet. But what happens after we leave it, when our bodies no longer function, and I strongly believe that our spirit is still alive and is always alive, and that, or our soul, and that goes on to someplace else. It's an ending. And I think that is the fear point.
I also think the fear point is for those of us that are left behind, because that's only where the fear lingers, right? Like, I am so into the perspective of your suffering ends when you leave, and your consciousness maybe not doesn't end, and we don't really know what doesn't end, but we do know that when someone is passing, they go through like a euphoric experience on their way out, and they go into another space, whatever that may be. But it's us that's left behind that feel the repercussions of that loss and feel the emptiness of that loss and all of the grief that comes with it. So I think really the topic of death and dying, yes, is the fear of passing, but also how to deal when someone you care about so much is on their way out or has just passed.
Right. That's so good. It is two sides, two perspectives, two places that we're going to stand, and to be able to have the conversation and the discussion about it is really important. It's like trying to avoid something that's going to happen in your life, and not so much that if you talk about it, it brings it forward. Culturally, that is what I grew up with. It's like, oh, we don't talk about it because it's like the boogeyman. If you talk about it, or Voldemort, it comes closer. It comes now. And it's like, well, how logically, it's like, well, that doesn't make sense, because we're talking about another journey, just like going on a trip. So I was kind of banned from talking about it when I was younger. And funerals were this thing that was like, oh, shh, no, you're too young, you can't go. So there was this kind of protection, but also a forbiddenness around it. And so I really love the opportunity. And to be perfectly honest, what I wanted the most when I was going through my cancer was to talk about it.
Mhm.
Not because I thought that death and dying was imminent. I knew it was a possibility, but I just wanted to have a conversation about what I was feeling, what I thought it was, the curiosity of what is it like?
I mean, okay, so I had no idea that that's like the culture that you grew up in. You know, I mean, I know your family, I know your parents, I am your family, but I didn't know that that was the perspective of death. It was never like, don't talk about it. But also, you had cancer when I was so young that I say this all the time that I've never seen cancer as a death sentence in itself. And I still don't see cancer just being a death sentence. Yes, it brings it forward, but I will get there. So the conversation has always been a conversation, and it's never been something to fear even talking about as though it makes it real. Because it's always been a part of it, you know, and it's always been a part of the journey. Being, what was I, like 4 or 6 or something when you first got diagnosed? Like, I was so young that even the idea of death and like, yeah, who knows if I even knew what death was at 4 years old. Um but like, it was just never this, it was nothing, something that I had to avoid. It was always
Right,
on the tables for conversation. I mean, I remember waking up being scared, like being scared of death, obviously, and being able to come to you and immediately talk about it, and like having a nightmare about it. But it was never something that was like, oh, if you talk about it, it's gonna happen. It's
right,
not like a superstitious thing for me. So it's really interesting to hear that you grew up with it being superstitious to talk about.
right. Which made it even harder, right? Because here I was, and the immediate thought, I mean, you were little. I just remember that day when I got the diagnosis over the phone in my parents' dining room in the dark. You were in the kitchen with the grandparents and everyone. And I'm like, what? I mean, just this total out of body feeling. And the first thing that came to my head and my mind was, I'm going to die.
Mhm. And I think that's true for many many people who get that diagnosis, any cancer diagnosis. They That's where your brain immediately goes, and that's why this topic is so important to have, because it's the last thing people who have cancer want to be thinking about. And it's, I think, very much the reason that like throughout a cancer journey we warrior up, or we become martyrs, or whatever it is that gets us through it. We want to get through it alive, and we constantly fear death because in our brains immediately cancer is equated to death. And so we're just trying to avoid that at all costs, regardless of the fact that we know that death is inevitable for all living beings. It comes closer, and it becomes so much more real.
Well, just jumping off what you said, because it was sparking something else that I wanted to say is the immediate thought is, okay, I'm going to die. I don't care if it, you know, what stage or what type of cancer. It's cancer's always been associated out there with death, and it's changed in probably your generation. Thank goodness, because there's so many more advances. But let me go back to what we want to do is we all of a sudden realize that, uh-oh, life is short. We know this. But all of a sudden that becomes real. And now we want to stretch it as long as we can. Like this short, I want it to be longer. So then we start jumping into things like, how should I change my diet? Should I do more exercise? What do I cut out of my life? It's like, what do I do to extend it, almost like it's just the most yummy dessert, and I don't want it to stop, so I'm going to eat it in really little pieces and
Mhm.
savor every moment. Well, that's a positive offshoot of that, is that you're enjoying and appreciating the moments more. But it is almost this panic that we, is that the word you were looking for? I don't know. The panic that you feel, and it's like, it's an adjutant. It's also a wake up, but it's an adjutant that's like, okay, all of a sudden I thought I had this long or this long, and now all of a sudden it feels like it's this long or this long. And what do I do to stretch it out? Because I'm not done yet.
And
I'm not ready to leave.
that's just one perspective, right? Like that's maybe how you felt when you got the diagnosis, but there are people who are just like, let me go. I'm done. It's fine. And then there are
That's true.
also people who, um, I mean, we grow up in a society, especially here where we are in America, very culturally in our society. It's like, how do I make the most of my time? How do I not waste my time? How do I constantly be productive? Right. And so that gets switched, turned up even more, and not necessarily productive like, how do I fix, which I feel like is what you're talking about. Like, how do I fix this situation so I get more time? You work out, nutrition, you take care of yourself. Or there's that, like, okay, I have to do everything now in this truncated amount of time. Like I have to go have fun. I have to go eat the like worst thing I never let myself eat ever because it's so bad for me. And I need to go like update my will, and I need to like, there becomes a checklist. So there's so many different perspectives that anyone could fall into when they are diagnosed, and it's a trigger. It's the trigger that we never really anticipate having for ourselves. And it's the trigger that it catches people so off guard because it does feel like a death sentence when it's being given to you, especially in the first moment. There is no easing into it, really. It's not like, oh, you get just like a little sick and then a little sick, and then all of a sudden, like, we learn that this sick could lead to cancer, and then all of a sudden it's cancer. It's usually like, no matter what preceded it, the minute that you get that diagnosis, it's a shock. It's
Hmm.
terrifying. And you start to feel really alone, I would imagine, to who else is going through this? Who can understand what I'm going through? Everyone immediately around me who's been the same space as me, they're not getting the news the same way, that their life has flipped over and that they feel like everything needs to change. They're going to react with me. They're going to be
Yeah.
there with me on that journey. But for the individual who's getting that diagnosis, it's devastating.
Yes. And it is lonely because all of a sudden it's just you. It's just me. Okay. Not everybody's leaving. It's not a group, ailment. It's just me.
Hmm.
So what do I want? And what am I going to choose? And how is it going to impact I mean, it starts that swirl of how's it going to impact the family? How am I going to tell them? Oh my God, what do I want to do? Oh, what's really happening? And there is this blanket for a while that you kind of put over it, which is denial. Oh, it's not that bad. Oh, maybe they're wrong. I need to get a second opinion, a third opinion, a fourth opinion. It's just, again, that elongating. It's like denial helps elongate that reality of something is here that really needs my attention
Hmm.
and has dire consequences.
Yeah, yeah. And just in recognition of all those different spaces anyone may be in, there is no right or wrong. There's no right or wrong way to react. It is just simply what's truest for you in that moment, absolutely. And it's also why we're here, like the Cancer Journey Institute. Like we're here because cancer is a hard enough experience to handle on your own, right? Like you said, it's not like, okay, you and your partner who have been linked whoever knows how long are in this together. It's like, yeah, we'll support you, but this is your journey. And they may only be able to understand so much of it. And if you, not everyone, I don't expect everyone to have the language that we currently have, right? Or the language to just communicate with one another what we truly need. Like, that's just hard in general, even for the people who know how to do that and know that's important. It's hard to ask the people in your life for what you want and need, but um, that's why we're here, because we want to make that transition into being with your cancer, because there's not really an escape to it, for better or
Right.
worse. um,
Right.
we just show you how to be with cancer, your loved one's cancer, the cancer that has passed and you are through it, or the cancer that still persists. We are here to hold your hand and let you know that we understand, without being like, let me tell you what I experienced. Let me tell you what you're going to experience. It's not about that. It's about people who have innately, deeply had an experience with cancer that has changed them and made them feel like anyone else going through cancer, no one deserves to be alone during that or feel unrecognized or unheard. And in those times when we start to feel like our life has been truncated extra short is when we deserve to have that most, because we really need that support, and we really need that deep understanding that only people who have gone through it can teach us how to go through it, not necessarily what
Right.
we're going to go through.
Yes, yes. And I think that what I'm hearing you speak to is how do you live through this? And while you have this medical team who's doing their best to heal your body and help your body through this cancer experience, there's life. And how do you live through and with a cancer experience? And that's where we really come in. And that is born from me wanting to talk about the dying so that I can understand from dying how living is and how to be with every day. And it's like, yeah, I don't get up every morning going, yeah, I'm so grateful for the day. I am when I pause and stop for a moment, but I still have that expectation of I'm going to get up in the morning. I'm going to be fine. If I didn't, then I think that all of a sudden life would be hard. And I got to say, let me just put it out there, being a 5-time cancer survivor and going through that diagnosis 5 times, very different, every single one. Even if you tried to get up every morning going, I'm so grateful, it loses its luster. It's like you can't do something and feel it to that level every day. It's going to become rote. You're going to come into a norm, and I don't know. That just doesn't feel right. It's about really being with each day as it is, bad or good, fabulous or horrible. I mean, just with the nuances of life and how to maneuver that with this little thing back here called, the shadow of cancer that's what we call it. It's the fear of recurrence is what others like to define it as. But that is a presence,
Hmm.
sometimes really far away that you can't hear it, and then sometimes really close. But that kind of gives you mm, not an impetus, more like it underscores. It's always there in the background.
Hmm.
And yet there is still lots and lots of living to be
Hmm.
had in
And
however long.
right, right. And so what I'm also hearing, right, in that desire to not plateau your gratitude, right? And you have positivity absolutely number one, right? And so for you to say that waking up every morning and being like, I'm grateful isn't helpful, which totally makes sense, but you would think someone with positivity high would feel a little more of that. Totally fine that you don't. What we're really saying, and what you're really saying, is the consciousness, being conscious of what's going on around you, especially when it comes to the emotions that are here and emotional intelligence. It's been a really big emotional intelligence month for us, so I'm still in that brain, but the consciousness of what life is giving me and how I'm reacting right now is like what feels like life, right? Like you wake up and you can have this conscious recognition, almost like a scan, kind of like how we do with Pesh, right? Getting grounded and just like, okay, what's here? Because I am life. This is life. Other people are going to come in, they're going to give me little, not triggers, maybe glimmers, maybe just something to react to, and that's going to react something in me. That reaction is life. What am I feeling and how am I wanting to handle it with everything that I know and everything that I'm thinking about that impacts this life, this beautiful life I have. um Something I did want to touch on too, just with getting a cancer diagnosis, but in general, on a larger scale, I think some of our biggest fears are death and pain. And those things feel almost like they're promised a little bit more during a cancer diagnosis, during cancer treatment, even though we don't know, right? A lot of fear is actually the unknown because we're fearing the unknown. We don't know what death feels like, though we do know it is an end. We don't know what pain is coming, but we fear that pain. And so those are just so elevated during a cancer diagnosis that sometimes it clouds everything else that goes on because we're just in fear.
Right, right. And that's what I think we're really afraid of is the fear of the unknown. And so, right, nobody wants to feel pain, though we have a different definition of pain at the cancer journey. Um, and you'll have to take one of our classes to understand what that is, because it's a much longer conversation. But it's also the struggle and and the letting go.
Hmm.
Because as you get closer to the point of death, there is a letting go. And that's where the struggle comes in. It's like, I'm leaving this that I know, which may not be the greatest and may be at the absolute greatest, but letting go of what you know, which all of a sudden is that really comfortable, yummy life that you have, your comfort zone.
Hmm.
To go to an unknown, can you feel that fear already? It's like, what if it's really bad? What if it's worse? What if? Because we don't know. And so we start conjuring up all these images. The same with what if it's absolutely wonderful, but still unknown. And so that I could see that holding on and not wanting to let go or not really knowing how,
Hmm.
because that instinct to pull back and to hold on to where you are is so natural.
Yeah. Yeah, I literally when you're talking about it, I felt my armor go shing, like the armor and being like, okay, I don't know what's going on. Let me just protect myself and put all my armor on and hold up my shield, and I'm still gonna do it sort of, but I'm not gonna do it fully, and it's a bit of a charging through, and um, honestly, what that brings up for me, which I was thinking about early in this conversation, so I'm glad it's coming back around, is trust. I mean, it's so hard. It's so hard in this case, and I know that's like you want me to trust my cancer diagnosis, everything that's supposed to go on. Like you don't know what you're talking about. That's way too easy, and it's not that simple. It is not that simple. It's a simple word, but it is not that simple at all. To let down that armor, to let yourself be vulnerable to what's coming next is extremely difficult. And I think that when you're going through a cancer journey, it's kind of okay to have some of that armor, but recognize when it's there and when it's showing up for you, because it's not something that you're always going to be able to just like, oh, I recognize it and I can put it down, right? But when we're recognizing when we're in that space, we know what we really need. And it lets it come down easier. If it's not being in warrior, it could be in martyr or victim.
Victim, yeah.
Um, but tr- trust of what's coming next, because we don't have control over any either way. We don't have the ability to know how to be prepared for it until it comes. But when you trust yourself to just be able to handle whatever comes next, is when you really start to allow the resources that you have, internal and external, to really start to blossom. Because then you have this whole host of every resource at your disposal that you've ever had when you move into that situation, ready for you to ask upon it. Rather than feeling like, okay, I'm gonna come with these things that I can hold, and they're gonna fix everything, and my armor's gonna fix everything, and whatever it is, I'm just gonna bulldoze through. Um, it works to a certain point until it doesn't anymore.
Until it doesn't. Until it doesn't. And as you said that, what really came up for me is that feeling stuck, and it's you're holding and you're protecting, and yet it's like, I don't know how to do this. Come on, who knows how to die? We're not. That's not anything that you're taught. anywhere. And what I believe, and I think what we do really well at the Cancer Journey Institute is that we use conversation and the safe spaces where you don't feel judged, the judgment-free zones where you get to say anything that you want to say so that you can let the processing happen. And it's not until you can process what you're experiencing in here and share it that you can actually get it. I mean, yes, you can probably journal it out, but there is something about witnessing,
Mhm.
being witnessed and processing that way. And also, we always say there's magic in the telling. When you allow it to come out of you and be witnessed and almost be mirrored, because then somebody can mirror it back who knows the skill of doing that well, you go, oh my goodness, is that what's going on inside? I mean, it's been churning in here, but I haven't been able to make sense of it. And
Mhm.
so having this safe space where I get to talk it out and somebody else is hearing me, and then they're kind of reflecting, mirroring back what I'm saying without judgment. So I can go, no, that's not really what I'm thinking here. This is what's coming up for me inside. And
Mhm.
then that clarity, all of a sudden, clarity is such a beautiful thing. There's a quiet and a peace
Mhm.
when you have clarity.
And I mean I fully agree with there is healing in the telling. There's so much power in it. And it's so often said very generally like process your emotions, just go process them. Okay, to a lot of people process means sit there and think and stew on it forever, just let it churn in your belly, in your brain forever. And you just like cling to it, right? Because we don't know, we're not often taught how to process. We're told that the arts help us express emotion often, so sometimes that's what a lot of people who are artists do, is they express their emotion, that helps them process, but not everyone leans that direction. And so journaling, and also talking to someone are a big part of that processing that allows you to just get it out of your body, get it out.
Mhm.
I agree that journaling is a great option. I think that the only, not issue, the only thing that really kind of holds me back from feeling like it's a full process is that you're only seeing through one lens, and that's
Yes.
your lens. And so when you're writing, um yes, it's kind of getting it out of you, it's putting it somewhere. Maybe it's helping you a little bit. And honestly, I love to journal, but my hand does not move as fast as my brain. So it becomes really difficult to try to work through something no matter how long I'm writing because I can only get down so much. Same thing with typing, right? I can only get through so much. And I think that would be real processing if I came back and read it later and kind of had that conversation with myself of like, what's going on here? But when I'm speaking with someone else, it's exactly like you said, that mirror that reflects exactly what I'm saying, sometimes literally verbatim what I'm saying. And then I can be like, oh, I said that. I said that to me, like, wow. And even that, just that reflection is impactful, but also you get their second perspective that you otherwise wouldn't, especially when it's with someone you really trust. And I will say it helps to process more when you're talking to someone that you really trust their opinion and can be soft and open to it, rather than someone who's, even a friend or family member can be a little bit harder to have that conversation with, because they're also can be so involved in that situation, and have other knowledge of that situation that gives them their own opinion and their own perspective that maybe is not as helpful for you. But when you have someone like a coach who really is impartial, um, unconditional listener, who is really there just in service of you, the growth is like astronomical. And I can really say that, like, as someone who has been coached, is a coach, is around coaches all the time, like, watching those shifts happen so quickly, even from one week to the next or 1 second to the next, it's like you really get to see that growth happen so much faster than you would alone.
Yes. So I'm going to say my takeaway from this topic, which I think we need to have like part two, maybe part three, part four, because there's so much here, is that there's no correct way of doing death and dying. It is your personal way of doing it. And there's nothing as satisfying as processing it out loud. Okay, I'm an extrovert. I do external processing, so it's coming from me. So my opinion and my takeaway, right? My takeaway is I need to uh, process it out loud with a very trusted person. And that's where the cancer journey coaches come in, because it's for 45 minutes, an hour. It's just me and anything that I want to say. And it's all about me. Where if I am trying to process with my friends or the family or an external close relationship, they have their own opinions, and they want to have a voice in the conversation. When I just have this time for just me, luxurious.
Mhm.
And so it's a good place to start talking about my feelings about death and dying. So having said that, my word is like just that sigh, that release. And my pesh is 4, 4.2, 4.3, 4.4, and peace. Again, I'm repeating my word. How about you? Your takeaway?
Um, okay, my takeaway, I agree. Like, there's so much to go off on this topic. I think that we focus mostly on the like patient perspective, or someone who's a thriver or even survivor. And I think the caregiver side is a little more on the grief kind of perspective of this rather than specifically death and dying. But I think any person can really relate to the fear that we're talking about. It's such a big topic. This is such a big topic, and it's so the reality of our work, right? And we've been um fortunate and unfortunate enough to have this topic be really top of mind for us recently and touch really, really close to home. And so it's really important for us to recognize that this is an inevitability of our work, and that, sometimes it's kind of like the shadow cancer, right? It can feel really close, but it can feel really far. And right now it's feeling really, really close for us. Um, and it's not something that I think that should be skipped over. It deserves its light. It deserves its moment to be feared, honestly, and to be able to express that fear, because otherwise, there's a little churning thing in you rather than being like, I'm scared of dying. Like, what's going to happen? And to be able to just have that conversation together, and with the people who, all of you who are listening here. Like, it's a really scary topic, and we know that it's comes up for everyone. And in general, I think we just want to inspire more conversation around it, because it's something that we all do experience in one way or another. um that was my takeaway. My pesh: physically, I'm a 4.25. Emotionally, I am a 4.4. Spiritually, a 4.25. And my hope is a 4.5. And my word is real.
Mm.
Well, thank you for tuning in with us today. Maybe we'll do a part 2 of this one, because I feel like this is a really juicy topic for us that we have a lot more to talk about. And I think it's something that's really important with, this community. So I hope that you'll tune into the next one.
If you have any comments about what we said or want to be part of the conversation, please put it into the comment section, and somebody will get back to you, or me or Alicia. Have a lovely rest of your day, and remember that you're more powerful than you realize.